Hotel del Coronado, San Diego, California. Kate Morgan checked into the Hotel del Coronado in San Diego on Thanksgiving Day in 1892. She was a young, beautiful woman, but there was something deeply troubling about her. She spent days wandering the hotel's grounds, appearing agitated, often talking to herself, and asking for a gentleman who never arrived. 5 days later, Kate was found dead on an exterior staircase leading to the beach, a gunshot wound to her head. The death was ruled a suicide, but some speculated foul play. Over the years, guests at the Hotel del Coronado have reported seeing a woman in black, her face obscured by a veil, wandering the hotel's Victorian halls. Those who have seen her describe an overwhelming feeling of sadness that accompanies her presence. One couple claimed that the lights in their room would flicker every night at the same time. When they mentioned it to the staff, they were told that their room was directly above where Kate's body was found. To this day, visitors to the hotel sometimes wake to find a woman standing at the foot of their bed, dressed in old-fashioned clothing, her eyes hollow and dark. And when they scream, she simply vanishes. The Shadow at Central Park, New York City, New York. A man named David was jogging through Central Park late one night, a routine he had followed for years. The park was mostly empty, save for a few night owls here and there. As he approached the Bow Bridge, he noticed something out of the corner of his eye, a dark figure standing under one of the lamps near the bridge. He slowed down, trying to make out the details, but the figure seemed to be shrouded in shadow. The lamp above it flickered and went out, plunging the area into darkness. When the light came back on, the figure was gone. David shook off the encounter and continued his run, but he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that he was being watched. The next night, he went back, curiosity getting the better of him. Again, as he neared the Bow Bridge, he saw the figure. This time, it was closer, and he could make out more details: tattered clothing, a pale, gaunt face, and eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. The figure didn't move, didn't make a sound. It just stood there, staring at him. David felt a cold wave of fear wash over him. He turned and ran as fast as he could, the sound of his footsteps echoing through the empty park. When he finally dared to look back, the figure was gone. David stopped jogging at night after that. But sometimes, when he's in Central Park during the day, he catches glimpses of something out of the corner of his eye. Just a shadow, always near the Bow Bridge. The Lady of the Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado. The Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado, is famous for its association with Stephen King's The Shining, but long before the book and movie, the hotel had its own ghostly history. One of the most frequently reported apparitions is that of a woman in old-fashioned clothing who is seen in room 217. Guests have reported waking up in the middle of the night to find her standing by the bed, gazing out the window, or quietly tidying up the room. Some have even claimed that she's tucked them in, pulling the blankets up to their chin before disappearing. The story goes that in 1911, a housekeeper named Elizabeth Wilson was injured in an explosion in room 217. She survived, but many believe her spirit remained behind. Visitors have reported cold spots, lights flickering, and objects moving on their own. One couple recounted how they returned to their room to find their suitcases unpacked and their clothes neatly folded on the bed, even though they hadn't done it themselves. Those who have stayed in room 217 often leave with an overwhelming feeling of unease, as if they're being watched, and some never return, convinced that the Lady of the Stanley Hotel is more than just a ghost story. The Ghost of the Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. The RMS Queen Mary, now permanently docked in Long Beach, California, is known as one of the most haunted ships in the world. During her time as a luxury liner and then as a troop ship during World War II, the Queen Mary witnessed countless deaths, and it seems some of those spirits never left. One of the most haunted areas on the ship is the first-class swimming pool, which has been closed for decades. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing wet footprints appear on the floor, even though the pool has been dry for years. Some have seen the ghost of a young girl, dressed in a 1930s-style swimsuit, playing near the pool. She's often heard laughing, but when approached, she disappears. Another infamous spot is Cabin B340. Guests who have stayed there have reported being violently shaken awake in the middle of the night, blankets ripped off the bed, and the lights flickering on and off. One guest claimed to have seen a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed, staring at them before slowly fading away. The Queen Mary offers ghost tours for those brave enough to explore her haunted history. But even the tour guides admit that some parts of the ship are too dangerous to enter at night, as the spirits there are far from friendly. The haunting of Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Eastern State Penitentiary in Philadelphia was one of the most notorious prisons in the United States, known for its harsh conditions and the solitary confinement that drove many inmates to madness. It closed in 1971, but some say the spirits of the prisoners never left. Visitors to the prison, now a museum, have reported hearing disembodied voices, footsteps, and the clanging of cell doors. One of the most famous stories is that of Cell Block 12, where a dark, shadowy figure has been seen pacing back and forth. Some have even claimed to feel a cold hand touch their shoulder, only to turn around and find no one there. In the prison's infamous death row, where inmates awaited execution, the atmosphere is even more oppressive. One visitor described hearing a low, guttural growl coming from one of the cells, but when they looked inside, it was empty. Others have seen apparitions of prisoners in old-fashioned uniforms, still serving their time in death. The most chilling tale comes from a former tour guide who was locking up one night. As she walked past one of the empty cells, she heard a whisper. Her name, spoken softly but clearly. She quickly turned around, but there was no one there. The whisper came again, this time louder, more insistent. She ran out of the prison and never returned. To this day, those who visit Eastern State Penitentiary leave with a sense of unease, as if they're being watched by the spirits of those who suffered within its cold, stone walls.